Joining us now is Republican Congressman from Tennessee, Tim Burchett. He's one of the 8 Republicans who voted to remove then Speaker Kevin McCarthy from his post. Congressman, it's Wednesday. You and I speak every Wednesday about whether or not there's going to be a speaker. My question on this, clearly there is unity and there's momentum behind Mike Johnson's candidacy at this point. There were 20-plus Republicans who did not vote last night. Why should we assume after the last 21 days that everyone's going to get in line?
Well, it was late, and those 20 were out. Some of them had dinner, some of them had receptions. But I think what you need to understand about Mike Johnson is just who he is. This town is bucking, and there's much gnashing of teeth and wringing of hands last night from the lobbyists and the special interest. This town is languishing in moral and fiscal ambiguity, and he will restore that. Mike Johnson is a good man, and I think as you saw last night, that we are ready for a leader. We don't deserve a leader like Mike Johnson, but dadgummit, we're going to get him, and I think he's going to carry us over the finish line. He is an excellent man. He's a family man. He's a fine Christian, and he is I think he'll be a giant. He's not very tall physically, but in these halls, he is. You will stand in his shadow.
We will not criticize height on this show, Congressman. I think to some degree that gets to the point. I was talking to a Republican, one of your colleagues last night, who said he's the only guy right now in the race who doesn't have a bunch of people who hate him. Is that the threshold here, basically? If you don't have enemies, that's your only pathway to 217?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, last week on Saturday, I texted Mike. I was sitting with my wife, and we were talking, and she said, "Who do you think has got a shot at this thing?" And I said, "Well, it's always the first few that hit the beach that end up getting killed, and that's exactly what happened." And I said, I would hope that we would get someone like Mike Johnson, and I actually had texted him at that, and I reminded him, and he reminded me of that last night, and so And the other question is I get asked is was it worth it? And I said, absolutely, it was worth it. It was, as I've stated many times, I prayed about it. It was the right thing to do. And I think you're going to see a great leader. I think the lobbyists are doing everything they can right now to generate, as they did last night in our meeting. You saw some of the old guard trying to rally support for a bogus write-in type situation. And then that's why we forced the vote on an actual voice vote, a roll call vote. So people had to stand up, and then you saw everybody gathering around him at the podium. So I think we are on our way to electing a speaker today at noon.
I think, Congressman, my biggest question right now is whoever your next leader was going to be, and if it's Mike Johnson, which appears there's momentum to that case, that person will have 23 days until the government is set to shut down again. He has committed to standalone appropriations bills, of which I believe your chamber still has 8 to pass. The Senate is just starting to move on its first 3. There's no way to reconcile 12 bills in 23 days, and you guys don't support a continuing resolution. So how does the government not shut down?
We follow the rules. Where was everybody yelling when we took off the entire month of August and 2 weeks into September when we knew September 30th was the end of our fiscal year? What's going to happen? Some of these guys are going to have to get out of bed before noon and come down here and work. That's what's going to happen. The rest of the country is, I can guarantee you the good folks in Tennessee right now are on their way out the door. They're taking their kids to school, they're heading to work, they're going to the factories, whatever.
Right.
And you know what? Congress needs to get off their butts and get to work. And that's what needs to happen, and that's what can happen. When, we roll out of here, we set a meeting for 10 o'clock, and then we cater in a hearty lunch at taxpayer expense, and then we leave by 2 o'clock, and we walk out with our Brooks Brothers suit, unbuttoned and our jacket thrown over our shoulder, and our ties undone, and we say to America, we've been working hard. Well, you know what? That's an insult to hardworking Americans everywhere, from the north to the south. America isn't buying that anymore. There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Mike Johnson, and dadgummit, he's going to deliver.
And we're going to see in about 4.5, 5 hours whether or not that's actually the case. Congressman, I appreciate your time as always, sir. Thank you.